working very well today, is it? Don't know what's gone wrong with it. I'll have to put it back together for another day. Anyway, good evening, children. Rainy day today, my goodness. So, today we're going to get straight to the story. I don't know, shall we have a guest? Yes, I know. Let's have this naughty little bear. He can sit and you better be good today. Right, you sit there with Lanchop and Rabbit. See, you won't sit still. A bit naughty. Right, behave. Because we're going to have a Horrid Henry. Horrid Henry tricks the Tooth Fairy. There's Horrid Henry. Can be a bit horrid. So, here we go. It's not fair, shrieked Horrid Henry. He trampled on Dad's new flower bed, squashing the pansies. It's just not fair. Moody Margaret had lost 2 teeth. Sour Susan had lost 3. Clever Claire lost 2 in one day. Rude Ralph had lost 4, 2 top and 2 bottom, and could spit to the blackboard from his desk. Greedy Graham's teeth were pouring out. Even Weepy William had lost 1, and that was ages ago. Every day someone swaggered into school, showing off a big black toothy gap, and waving 50p or even £1 that the Tooth Fairy had left them. Everyone, that is, except for Henry. It's not fair, shouted Henry. He yanked on his teeth, he pulled, he tweaked and he tugged. They would not budge. His teeth seemed to be superglued to his gums. Why me? Moaned Henry. Why am I the only one who hasn't lost a tooth? Horrid Henry sat in his fort and scowled. He was sick and tired of other kids flaunting their ugly wobbly teeth in disgusting holes in their gums. The next person who so much as mentioned the word tooth had better watch out. Henry, shouted a squeaky little voice. Where are you? I know you in the fort, Henry, shouted Perfect Peter, Henry's perfect brother. Go away, said Henry. Look, Henry, I've got something wonderful to show you. Gosh, you can guess what it is, can't you? What? You have to see it, said Peter. Peter never had anything good to show. His idea of something wonderful was a new stamp or a book or about plants or a gold star from his teacher. Henry crawled out. This had better be good, he said, or you're in big trouble. Peter held out his fist and opened it. There was something small and white in Peter's hand. It looked like... No, it couldn't be. Henry stared at Peter. Peter smiled as wide as he possibly could. Oh no, look at that. Henry grabbed Peter. You've coloured in your tooth with black crayon, you faker. I have not, shrieked Peter. It fell out, see? Peter proudly poked his finger through the hole in his mouth. It was true. Told you, said Peter. He smiled again at Henry. Henry could not bear to look at Peter's gappy teeth a second longer. This is the worst thing that ever happened to him. I hate you, shrieked Henry. He was a volcano pouring hot molten lava onto the puny human foolish enough to get in his way. Ah! Peter screeched, dropping his tooth. Henry grabbed it. Ow! Yelped Peter. Give me back my tooth. Stop being horrid, Henry, shouted Mum. Henry dangled the tooth in front of Peter. Na, 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 na. Peter burst into tears. Give me my tooth. Give Peter his tooth this minute, said Mum. No, said Henry. Mum looked fierce. She put out her hand. Give it to me, right now. Henry dropped the tooth on the ground. There, said Horrid Henry. That's it, Henry. No pudding for you. Henry was too miserable to care. Look, Mum, said Peter, and he scooped up the tooth. My big boy, said Mum, giving him a hug. How wonderful. I'm going to use my money from the Tooth Fairy to buy some stamps for my collection, said Peter. What a good idea, said Mum, and Henry stuck out his tongue. Henry sat in his thought. If a tooth wouldn't fall out, he would have to help it, but what could he do? He could take a hammer and smash one out, or he could tie a string round it, and then tie it round the door handle and pull it. Eek! Henry grabbed his jaw. On second thoughts, maybe not. Maybe there was a less painful way. Eat too many sweets and your teeth will fall out. Horrid Henry sneaked into the kitchen. He looked from left to right. No one was there. From the sitting room came the screechy, scratchy sound of Peter practising his cello. Henry dashed to the cupboard where Mum kept the sweet jar. Sweet day was Saturday and today was Thursday, 2 whole days before he got into trouble. He stuffed as many sticky sweets into his mouth as he could. Chomp, 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 chomp. Wasn't he bad? Henry's jaw started to slow down. He put the last sticky toffee in his mouth and forced his teeth to move up and down. He started to feel sick. His teeth felt even sicker. He wiggled them hopefully. After all that sugar, one was sure to fall out. Henry wiggled his teeth again, and nothing moved. Rats, thought Henry. His mouth hurt, his gums hurt, his tummy hurt. What did a boy have to do to get a tooth? Then Henry had a wonderful, spectacular idea. It was so wonderful that he hugged himself. Why should Peter get £1 from the tooth fairy? Henry would get that £1, not him. And how? Simple. He would trick the tooth fairy. The house was quiet. Henry tiptoed into Peter's room, and there was Peter sound asleep. Henry sneaked his hand under Peter's pillow and stole the tooth. Tee-hee, he thought. He tiptoed out of the room and bumped into Mum. Ah! Shrieked Henry. Ah! Shrieked Mum. What are you doing? Nothing. I thought I heard a noise in Peter's room and went to check, he said. Mum looked at Henry. Henry tried to look sweet. Go back to bed, Henry, said Mum. Henry scampered to his room and put the tooth under his pillow. Phew, that was a close call. Henry smiled. Wouldn't that cry-baby Peter be furious the next morning when he found no tooth and no money? Henry woke up and felt under his pillow. The tooth was gone. Hooray, he thought. Now for the money. And he searched and searched under the pillow. He searched on top of the pillow. He searched under the covers, under Teddy, under the bed. There was no money. Henry heard Peter's footsteps pounding down the hall. Mum, Dad, look, said Peter, a whole £1 from the tooth fairy. Great, said Mum. Wonderful, said Dad. What, thought Henry, shall I share it with you, Mum, said Peter. Thank you, darling Peter, but no thanks, it's for you, said Mum. I'll have it, said Henry. There are loads of comics I want to buy, and some... No, said Peter, it's mine, get your own tooth. Henry stared at his brother. Peter would never have dared to speak to him like that before. Horrid Henry pretended he was a pirate captain pushing a prisoner off the plank. Ow! Shrieked Peter. Don't be horrid, Henry, said Dad. Henry decided to change the subject fast. Mum, said Henry, how does the tooth fairy know who's lost a tooth? She looks under the pillow, said Mum. But how does she know whose pillow to look under? She just does, said Mum, by magic. But how? She sees the gap between your teeth, said Mum. Aha, thought Henry, that's where he'd gone wrong. That night Henry cut out a small piece of black paper, wet it and covered his 2 bottom teeth. He smiled at himself in the mirror. Perfect, he thought. Then Henry stuck a pair of Dracula teeth under his pillow. He tied a string round the biggest tooth and tied it to his finger. When the tooth fairy came, the string would pull on his finger and wake him up. The next morning was Saturday. Henry woke up and felt under his pillow. The string was still attached to the Dracula teeth. The string was still attached to his finger, but the Dracula teeth were gone. In their place was something small and round. A £1 coin, crowed Henry. He grabbed it. The £1 coin was plastic. There must be some mistake, thought Henry. He checked under the pillow again, but all he found was a folded piece of bright blue paper covered in stars. He opened it, and there in tiny letters he read, "Nice try, Henry, the Tooth Fairy." There's the little letter from the Tooth Fairy. It was his mum, really, wasn't it? Maybe it was a Tooth Fairy. "Rats," said Henry. From downstairs came the sound of Mum shouting, "Henry, get down here this minute." "What now?" muttered Henry. "Yeah." Mum held up the empty jar. He'd forgotten all about the sweets. "It wasn't me. We must have mice." "No sweets for a month," said Mum. "You'll eat apples instead. You can start right now." Ugh, apples. Henry hated fruits and vegetables, but apples were the worst. "Oh no," said Henry. "Oh yes," said Mum. "Right now." Henry took the apple and bit off the tiniest, teeniest piece he could. Crunch, crunch, crack. Henry choked. Then he swallowed, gasping and spluttering. His mouth felt funny. Henry poked around with his tongue and felt a space. He shoved his fingers in his mouth, then ran to the mirror. His tooth was gone. He'd swallowed it. "Not fair!" shrieked Horrid Henry. "Look at that." So he wrote to the Tooth Fairy. "Dear Tooth Fairy, don't you think it's time to start bringing £2 coins? Your friend, Henry." And there we are. There's Henry, all fed up. Very good. That was a good story about teeth. Maybe we'll have the little sister one about the tooth another day. That's a very nice one that I like. So, right, say goodbye. Bye. Say goodbye, Rabbit. Bye. See you all soon. Goodbye, children.